So welcome everybody to the Design to Thrive Leadership Summit, where we're talking all week about how you can have a powerfully positive global impact in your leadership role every day. So I'm super excited to introduce the lovely Kristie Kennedy today. She's going to be talking to us all about how to have the audacity to ascend, which I'm really curious about exploring what that topic's all about. But first, I just want to introduce you to her with a bit of a short bio. So Kristie Kennedy, a TEDx Audacious Leadership keynote speaker and authentic lifestyle author, is the owner of Queefidence Global, an image consulting business. Her evocative gift of motivating empowers Her evocative gift of motivation empowers visionary leaders with confidence and clarity to find their voice, free their voice, and look fabulous using their voice. So that sounds amazing. And Kristie specializes in 4 areas of peak performance: mindset mastery, massive momentum, magnetic messaging, and potential maximization, which all sound incredible. And Kristie's thought-provoking teaching style really elevates your self-perception from being stuck to unstoppable, which we can all use for sure. And her bodacious belief is a testament that you can shift from mediocrity to magnificence in one daring action step at a time. So, oh my goodness, Kristie, the language in that biography is amazing and electric. I love it. I love it. So, Kristie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And I'd love to hear your take on how the amazing visionary leaders that are part of the summit can really explore this topic that you want to share with us today of the audacity to ascend. So I'd love to hear what that means and how we can go about it. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate the opportunity even just to talk with you and your guests. Audacious leadership. When I look at my life, how did I get to this place? It really took audacity because I had to challenge my own, what we call thinking traps in coaching. I was a shy girl. I was the one with low self-esteem. I was the one that didn't perform well in school. I was always sitting in the back. I was invisible. And I tell women I can take you from invisible to invincible.
Oh, I love it. Yes, that sounds great.
How did I get out of that space? One of my favorite quotes is by Van Gogh. He said, "I would rather die of passion than boredom." And a lot of times when we're living beneath our potential, Sarah, what happens? We become bored with life. We feel unfulfilled. We don't have the zest that we need, the sparkle that we need. I often say, cut the dull and add more sparkle. But to be alive within yourself, that's when you tap into your core genius and your passion. And it took some years to get there, but I recognized that I had to confront my fears, one fear at a time, taking one step at a time. And so the audacity to say, I'm not going to be who society has said that I was. I'm going to be something different. And I began to design my life, literally one thought at a time.
I love it. And I so agree. And this perfectly aligns with the theme of this whole event is really being visionary, but not just visionary with thinking about it, but actually stepping into the woman or the leader that does it. So I'd love to hear what you mean by the word audacity, because I've been hearing it lately and I think I get it, but I'd like to explore sort of even what that sort of maybe personality is or what that looks like.
Yeah, it goes back to amplification. I often say whenever I find myself with my back against the wall, I have to become someone different, right? To conquer the mountain standing before me. And I say intensify, fortify, multiply until you occupy, until you possess it. And so that's extreme. That's becoming radical. I have the audacity to say, yes, I can pay off a house in less than 30 years. I paid off this home in 12 years.
Oh, good for you.
So
awesome.
Society standard, you think of average mindsets, they think you're going to have that mortgage for 30 years and you may not ever, you may die before you even pay it off. So really being able to challenge the status quo, to me, that takes audacity to do that, to follow your dreams and to do something. I built this business from the ground up with nothing but vision boards. That sounds kind of crazy.
Well, that's where it starts, right? Is that vision, but then the action needs to come behind it.
Action, and that's audacious action. It's saying, I will start no matter what. I'm not going to allow my thoughts to keep me from moving forward, progressing for that matter. And so now I'm surrounded by 20 vision boards, 6 vision books, because I had to amplify my belief in myself. If you're the only one that believes that, I tell people that's enough. Because there's a quote out there that says, it only takes one star to penetrate a universe of darkness. And so when we become audacious enough to believe in ourselves, we become unstoppable.
Oh, I just get like goosebumps and excitement just hearing it. And I guess what I'm hearing in that is sort of courage but confidence, strength, and really I don't know, a fire in there. It's like you're saying, a star. The light. And it has to come from internal for sure. I've seen so many people in leadership that I've worked with, myself, my family and friends, that struggle with that kind of confidence piece, or sometimes the imposter piece, and all those types of things. And so what I hear you're saying is we need to own it ourselves and do it, that switch. And I, as a coach, I fully believe in people helping us make those switches, but yeah, if you can tell us more about how somebody creates that, or if you want to share your stories or whatever you'd like to share with us today.
Yes, one of the most pivotal pieces was, 6 years ago, I often say I turned the pink slip into Queenfidence, which is the name of my company, Queenfidence Image Consulting. And I was always settling for less, Sarah. And we're talking about having the audacity to do something different, to be someone different, to say something different. The one that would never speak up, to start speaking up. And so when I received that pink slip, that was one of those crossroads. And I had to ask myself, who am I going to be now? Because you're always reinventing based upon what's happening in your life. And that's where I went vision board crazy. I had to silence all the other voices that were out there, because I had launched twice before. Now this is going to be the third time. And I was saying third time is a charm. And I said, I am not going to fail this time around. Right. And think about every time we succeed and then we fail, then we succeed and we fail. It's like ebb and flow, right? You don't have success without some failure, and failure is just feedback. It's okay, what do I need to do differently?
Absolutely.
A lot of people feel like, okay, I'm a failure. You're not a failure. We're saying the project or the process, the accomplishment, you didn't hit the mark, but now we can pick back up and start where we left off, and then you learn, you grow. And so for me, this third time around, I believe that the confidence was being built all along, but this one here, I had to take it to another level. And I often say, when you're in that box, you feel like you're boxed in. I often hear that from my clients. I feel stuck. I feel paralyzed. I said, one of the best ways out is up, and that's the elevated consciousness. And so I had to think my way out of, like I said, I was settling. I was always being overworked and underpaid. And so I had to have the audacity to say, I can get paid for my gifts without a company, backing me up. So that required a lot of belief in self.
Absolutely. And I've heard and seen it myself. What we believe of ourselves is how we see the world, and what we allow or what we create. And so if we want to stay small, we can stay small. But there's so much more joy and fulfillment when we're fully kind of living our full selves, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing you say that. So much joy and fulfillment. We're full of life. And that's the number one thing I'm complimenting on, is my energy, because everything that I'm doing, it's my passion. I'm not saying yes to anything that doesn't light me up. And that's a choice. That's by choice. That I often say we live by design or default. I've lived on the default setting before. We all have auto thoughts. I hear them every day in session, the auto thoughts, what we know by rote. And we have to disrupt those thoughts. If I said Mary had a little, you would say lamb, or happily ever. We've been conditioned to believe a certain way. And so we have to recognize our own stories and say, I have the pen. I'm going to rewrite this script because this is not working for me.
Yeah. And so empowering, right? To be able to do that and create something new. And I love how you're saying you don't do anything that doesn't light you up, that you don't love. That is amazing. And I've been feeling the same way in my own life lately, but it took a while to get there. There was a big transformation period, but so worth it. And there was a time where I realized at one point, I looked around and everything surrounding me was something I had chosen, that I had, you know what I mean? And versus it kind of just coming to you. And that intentional living is way different and so exciting. So tell us more about the audacity to ascend. And so I love how you're talking about the mindset shifts and looking at things differently.
Yes, when I look back over the journey, so a lot of people think, well, I'll just change my mindset, and we start with that, right? That's the beginning. But there's so many other things that now we have to create disciplines. What does the routine look like on a daily basis? Because like I said, people compliment me on my energy, but they don't see the journaling. So we talked about the action steps, like what are you doing every single day? And for us, you know, as leaders, we're the fast cars. And you think about in those Indy 500 races, those fast cars have to have the pit stops, right? More frequently. Like next week, I'm planning my little retreat for myself at a resort. And that's the way I give back to myself. So that's a part of the audacity. You have the audacity to go on a vacation in the second month of the year. Yes, I do, because it's my life. I know how I lavishly give to others. I have to lavishly pour into self.
I so agree. And people need to hear it more and more and more, because it's so easy to feel like, sure, you know, I went for a run today, or I don't know, maybe I had a tea, but to have this massive energy, we need massive amounts of that self-care piece. So I love that you're saying that. It's a mission I have for myself, not only to get people to take lunch breaks, but to go beyond that, to go massive self-care. So I love your saying the fast cars. That's a great way to put it, because if we want to go fast, we need more fuel. And really, it takes that audacity to be willing to take that time. To give it to ourselves.
Because if Albert said, we don't make the time, we won't take the time. And so I look at my calendar, I write all my appointments out, and I look for my white space, and I say, this is me time right there. We seize it early in the morning, even in the evening, doing the reflections, because one, as leaders, we're going to be constantly pouring out. And I want to pour out from my overflow. I don't like the way that feels if I'm pouring out from where the gas light is on. That doesn't feel good.
So totally.
Right? My goal is to stay full, so I can give you from my overflow, and I'm still full.
Love it. That's my mission as well. And I found it from my own personal experience, because I want to be fully creative and giving and doing way more than everyone else thinks is reasonable, because I love that. But that has to come with that replenishing, for sure.
And life has taught me that, because I've been on the other side of burnout. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching women how to care for themselves. It's okay to be ambitious and goal oriented. There's nothing wrong with that. But remember that you deserve to be cared for. Do not lose sight of that, because you will end up breaking down somewhere on the side of the road, and you got to start all over again. And we don't have to get to that place when we keep ourselves at the top of the priority list.
Love it. So tell us more. I have my own things, but I'd love to hear yours. How do you keep you at your priority list, at the top of the priority list? And then what other sort of practices do you use, or do you recommend to folks?
Yes. So it's non-negotiable, one, because I was coaching a doctor recently, and you know, they have to care 80 plus hours a week. And she said, how do I make it important? How do I make self-care important? I said, you have to make it important. Right. And so for me, because I've been on the other side, it's a non-negotiable. Even if I missed a morning routine, it's somewhere I can catch it in the afternoon, or excuse me, late at night, right before I go to bed with my devotion. I love breath work. I'll usually use my aromatherapy, put it in my hands, do my deep breathing, especially because I said we move fast, and you have to really be able to identify, is this anxiety, or is this just me moving deliberately and, you know, expeditiously? And so, they're very close. And so to be able to self-regulate, I love breath work. I don't live without it. I'm telling you, it's one of my number one goals too. Even the night routine, you know, spraying the pillows with melatonin and lavender, because it's very calming, listening to instrumental music, the water, sometimes it could be the fireplace crackling sounds with instrumental. But all of these things, like, I want to have a nice sleep, you know, undisturbed rest, so I can wake up feeling energized. Movement, every day I'm moving. You know, think about, as coaches, we're sitting here at the desk. And so I walk my dogs pretty much every hour on the hour. You know, those
lucky dogs. That's great.
They love it. And then their big break is at the park by the lake. And so we were there yesterday. As long weather permitting, it's been raining a lot, but I'll take them there. And sometimes I just enjoy them playing together. Sometimes I'm just reflecting. Sometimes I'm just crying, just to cleanse and then even think about the work that we do. Because sometimes you don't want your work to feel like it's a burden, but I think about all of these things that have come into my life. I have intentionally attracted them. And so I want to practice gratitude. So I have this 70-day gratitude journal. And every single day it asks you 3 things that you're grateful for. It asks you different questions, such as, what is life teaching you right now? What's the message you need to hear from yourself? So reflection is a big
Good
part of it.
questions. Yeah, lovely. I love this. Thank you. Because everybody's approach is different and it changes, you know, in different chapters of our lives. But I think that there's so many ways we can do the self-care. The aromatherapy is something that I've done in the past, but I will take that away as a to add to my own routine. Thank you. One thing that's just popped out at me, though, I would love to hear your take on it. How you said, is it anxiety or is it because you're moving fast? Can you explore that a little bit? Because I think that that also can come up where these amazing, visionary, high achieving women in the summit doing a lot. So sometimes that energy, I think, can be difficult to manage. So I'd be curious to hear about that.
Yes, absolutely. Because when we think about the common thing that comes up for us in our space is FOMO, fear of missing out. And if it's driven by fear, that's the anxiety piece. Now, going back into deliberate, I know that I have a goal to achieve. This is what my benchmark is. I am expecting to lose. Like, I'm just using my example for right now. I've changed my whole diet because I want to drop my quarantine weight, right? So I'm down 13 pounds, but I had to deliberately decide what I wanted to weigh first. What's my goal weight? And then change the diet and then start moving all these different pieces. That has nothing to do with any fear. Or I saw a young lady on Instagram and her body looked better than mine. You see what I'm saying? The comparison is fear-based. So I want to stay out anything that's fear-based, shame-based, that will create anxiety or timing. I feel like I should be at a certain place by now in my business because I saw someone who started with me. They're at 6K, 1 mil, whatever that is. That will drive anxiety.
So the comparison again, because you're not necessarily looking at where you're at and what's next for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that can create
based
anxiety.
on something external.
Yeah.
When we're driven by our own internal goals and desires and aspiration, there's nothing driving that outside of a pure desire to be greater, to have more.
And I love that. And even just, you know, your hand signals there of being sort of centered, right? That I can imagine that internal fountain. Then when you're really connected with that, then that's when all of that extra can come out instead of being all kind of messy with the, you know, external other things. That's beautiful. So we have a few more minutes yet, but I'm just wondering if there's any key pieces that you want to make sure that we cover before we wrap up.
So when we talk about the audacity to ascend and win, and that's the piece, going back to the stories that we tell ourselves, I remember when I had this cycle of failure going over and over. You try to put your hands to something and it doesn't succeed. And so now that reinvention piece is going to be key. The first place I start with clients is, what's the new vision? Who are you? Because you've been telling yourself that you're not confident. You've been telling yourself that you can't achieve it, but we got to say something different. And so the vision piece is critical, because until they change that inner image, they are going to see the same results over and over and over again. And I often say we ascend from within to win. Your powerful presence begins with acute self-awareness. You have to become highly self-aware, knowing your triggers, knowing the self-sabotaging thoughts, and then still moving through the fears, because the fear is going to show up. You know, I used to be so afraid of public speaking. I mean, terrified.
Oh, really?
I would look out of my peephole to make sure no one was on the outside that could hear me singing or speaking in my own house. That's how bad I had it.
Oh, wow.
And so I know what that feels like, to be a prisoner in your own mind. And so what I say to any woman that is listening is, who you are is not who you can be. There's so much potential that's resting underneath the surface that we have yet to tap into, but it is going to require an enormous amount of focus. And that's where that intensity comes in. We talked about the fire. And so put the blinders on and go after your dreams, pursue them wholeheartedly, and don't allow anything to stop you, not even yourself.
That's beautiful. I love it. So one question that comes up, I guess, is if someone is kind of stuck, how do they look past that, where they are, to that bigger vision? How do they kind of open the up? You said like kind of out of the box. Just wondering if you have any sort of little last minute strategy for that.
Come up and out. You know, I believe in modeling, finding somebody who has done it. You know, it's common practice. Finding someone who resonates with you, who you can identify with. Like my girl is Oprah. Oprah came from poverty, and so she's already demonstrated that it's possible. And so on those tough days, I can remember Oprah's story. But not only that, I often say, you know, one of my favorite quotes, no one is you and that is your power. I breathe life back into myself, and I'm going to show you one of the things that I do, like this one here. I did this yesterday. So I have this gratitude jar, and it's count your blessings.
Lovely.
So
Fun.
when I want to get unstuck and I want to talk about how I'm feeling deflated. So smile, I love you. And I said, I love how selfless you are. I love your passion. I love your courage. I love your diligence. I love your style. I love who you are. And so that's a practice. Speaking back into us, especially as visionaries, it can feel very lonely. We're leading people where we don't even really know sometimes where we're going. We have an idea, yeah, but the picture isn't as crystal clear as it's going to be. We're just taking these leaps of faith, just jump and the net will appear.
Right, exactly, which is it's thrilling, but also can be scary sometimes. So I love that the simple, what seems like small practices can really shift that mindset and the energy and get you back again into that alignment and inspired, audacious self. I absolutely love this. We could, I'm sure, explore this topic so much more. I guess I'm just wondering, how can people find out more about what your work is? I know you've got a fun freebie that you'd like to share with everyone. So you could tell us about that.
Absolutely. I would love for you to come to the Queen's Court at queenfidence.com. That's QUEENFIDENC.com. Queenfidence with the crown. And I am giving away our 30-day confidence builder as a workbook. It has 4 teaching lessons about public speaking, because a lot of women are afraid to use their voice. And so I'm going to teach you how to overcome that fear, how to stand in your power, no matter what the platform is. Because it's not about being perfect. I believe it's about being honest, open, powerful, standing in your presence and communicating a message, one heart to another.
Love it. Well, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Thank you so much, Kristie. It's been amazing today. I'm sure this will really inspire all of the ladies listening. So thank you for sharing your tips and just your energy with us today. So it's been amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.